Well, I think we need to point out that there's a lot of business leaders that want the president to exit the Paris Accord. The oil industry, the coal industry, and they're big players. There's no question about that. The tech industry obviously is concerned about whether the United States is going to stay in, as you read the tweet there of Mr. Musk. So it's somewhat of a divided business camp as I see it. And I think the president could go either way on this. I don't think he's too concerned about a campaign promise. I think he's more concerned about jobs in the coal industry in West Virginia and Ohio, states that he won, than he is satisfying countries that cheat in trade agreements. And they may go along with some climate adjustments, but they're undercutting American jobs, and it's forcing the president, from his standpoint, to not worry so much about climate change and do whatever he has to do to create jobs. That's going to be his measurement in re-election. Did he do what he said he was going to do with the economy? And that's going to be on every kitchen table in America. I do fear that if he does pull out of the Paris Accord, that it's going to isolate the United States. It'll be interesting to see how many other countries follow the United States, if any at all. And this could be some rough territory ahead. It would be a gutsy move by the president if he were to pull out of the Paris Accord.
But Ed, hold on there. You just cited the oil sector perhaps as being one of the ones, from a business standpoint, encouraging the president to stay with this. But his Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, formerly with ExxonMobil, we know is one of his chief advisors who's largely encouraged the president to stay in the accord, in addition to input from people like Gary Cohn, his own daughter, Ivanka Trump, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. You know, is it a really good move for the president to ignore the advice of several of these key figures who are so instrumental to his immediate orbit inside the White House?
Well, I think the comedy in this is Rex Tillerson. When he was the head of Exxon, the CEO, he didn't like climate change. But now that he's Secretary of State and has to get along with other countries, he thinks, well, maybe we ought to stay in it. Look, I think that the president's a very headstrong guy. I think he's flippant in some of his decisions. I wouldn't surprise me a bit if he pulls out of the Paris Accord. And it will be a statement and a real issue for the Republican Party. There's a lot of climate deniers in the United States Senate. Where are they going to stand on this? Do they want to go this far? Some of them do. And the fact of the matter is that it may hang over on the Republican Party as the party of climate deniers. This is going to really, I think, strike up a big conversation in their caucus.
Now, you mentioned earlier, Ed, that this is a divided business issue. You've got industries on one side saying that they would want to see this, and then you've got industries on the other side saying that they wouldn't, notably Elon Musk here. How do you think this will actually affect businesses going forward, you know, depending on where they actually stand on this issue?
Well, I don't think that business in America is going to be hurt if the president pulls out of the Paris Accord. And that's probably going to be his measurement. The oil industry wants nothing to do with this. The oil industry carries a big stick. They own the Senate. And with Citizens United, who knows where this is going to go? The other fact is that the president has made it very clear that he wants to drill at the Arctic Circle along the Arctic Refuge in Alaska. I mean, it couldn't be more clear that he's a drill, baby, drill president, that he is going to satisfy big corporations and big business. He's trying to get the country to be energy independent. He knows the Chinese are kicking our ass when it comes to solar and wind. And so this is the direction he's going to go. And it wouldn't surprise me a bit if he pulls out of the accord and says to the rest of the world, we're not convinced.
Ed, I want to get your reaction to a breaking news report out of CNN, Politico, and a few other media news outlets over the course of the last hour or so that basically says, according to a close friend of former FBI Director Jim Comey, Mr. Comey, the former director of the FBI, of course, will plan to testify next week that the president did, in fact, pressure him to end the FBI probe into Michael Flynn's direct ties with Moscow. Ed, if you're still with us, let me get your reaction.
Another CNN story where they're not properly sourced. They're not journalistically based. Once again, CNN has gone on the air saying that some friend of some guy said that Comey's going to say this. It's absolute hogwash is what it is, and it's unprofessional reporting. And I wish other news agencies would call CNN out on this. How many friends does Comey have? My God, every week there's a new friend that says that Comey's going to do something. If Comey thought that he was being pressured by the president, why didn't he go to the United States Senate and say, look, the president is telling me, the FBI director, that I got to shut this down. I need some backup. I mean, it seems very convenient for Comey to have, quote, all of these friends to start saying that, oh, he's going to say this. Look, I don't believe any of it. And I think that this witch hunt on Jared Kushner is going to turn out to be just that. Where's the where at? Where's the wrongdoing? Since when is it against the law to meet with people from another country? Since when is it against the law for an international businessman to seek financing from somebody else in a business deal? I mean, if there is a problem, we're going to find out about it. But I think that CNN's got to reel in their reporting a little bit, or at least have the balls to go on the air and tell us who the hell they're hearing this from.
Okay, well, Ed, to that point, Republicans have largely decried this as a witch hunt. The president himself is saying all this investigation into Russia is just a justification to basically prop up the fact that Hillary Clinton lost the election. Do you think there should be any investigation at all, be it from the FBI, the Justice Department, or members of Congress in any Russian tie capacity?
You know, I think that this is an overreaction by a bunch of Clinton supporters who are upset, looking for something to get rid of Donald Trump. And as I said when I was with you the last time, the Russians didn't tell Hillary, don't go to Wisconsin. They didn't tell her, don't go to Michigan. She was a lousy candidate with a lousy staff, a lousy message, and she got kicked by Donald Trump in the Electoral College in a big way. And it's a good thing she had New York and California, or she'd have been totally embarrassed. I don't think that there is any wrongdoing here at all. I think international interactions are very normal. We're in a global economy. We've got a billionaire as a president. He knows a lot of people. He knows a lot of leaders around the world. It's a different dynamic. And I think that we can go back to the Bush years. When something like this happened with the Bush administration, we used to call it an overzealous staffer. Well, I think Jared Kushner was probably an overzealous staffer and tried to get a back channel with the Russians because relations between the Russians and Obama were horrible. Obama lied to the Russians when it came to missile technology, and he lied to them about what he was going to do with those missiles along the NATO border. So the fact is that Trump apparently was trying to start some kind of new relationship with the Russians, and he's paying a heavy price for it right now. The Democrats won't let it go, and so we have to go through this long process. And I think it's about time for journalists in this country to ask people, what the hell kind of investigation is this? They've been doing this since last July. It's now almost June 1st. So is this just going to go on forever? And we're going to keep calling people to say things and nobody's reporting on a source? I think it's weak.
But Ed, I got to jump in here because you know you're going to have critics of yours here directly who are going to say you are employed by Russia Today television. So it's one thing for you to say that this CNN report is absolute hogwash. How would you respond to people who say, of course Ed Schultz is going to make that argument. He works for RT.
Well, show me the evidence that I'm wrong. I mean, I'm a journalist. I report the facts. I don't go on the air saying, hey, a friend told me that Donald Trump said this behind closed doors and this is what's going to happen. That's not journalism. The point I'm making is this is being ginned up by the corporate networks, satisfying the Democrats and their thirst to get rid of this president of the United States. They're actually going after the institution more than they are the facts of the story. You even had Devin Nunes the other day, who's the chairman of the House Intel Committee, make the very same point, that the Democrats are just, ginning all of this up. Look, my employer is my employer. Your employer is your employer. If you can go on the air and say things that aren't right, more power to you. I don't, okay? And the fact is that I've gotten my paycheck from corporate America. I've gotten my paycheck from my own radio show, and no one's ever told me what to say or how to do it. And we got to get over this. You know, PBS gets government money. The BBC gets government money. The German network gets government money. The Canadian broadcasting gets government money. And so do the Chinese and the Japanese. Are we to start believing that every country that might have some kind of a interest in the news business, all of a sudden it's jaded all the way across the globe? I think not.
All right, so
I think
Ed,
we got to go up
so,
and get
so
out
let
of
me
that.
let me switch gears here for the one last topic here. On your Twitter page, I know something you care about, declassified memos. I think this was Circuit News that first came out with this, say the FBI illegally shared spy data under the Obama administration, with a lot of people alleging the normal mainstream media outlets are not covering a topic like this. Do you agree that mainstream media outlets presumably are not covering this topic, and what's your message to them who aren't putting the focus on a story like that?
Well, why isn't the mainstream media taking that story and asking for an investigation, asking for a special prosecutor? You know, I mean, we pick and choose what we want to go after in America. We pick and choose what stories we like. That story that ran on RT was well sourced, and it was also documented about who said it and when they said it, and the discrepancy as to the information that came out versus the testimony that was in front of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees.